Alright, so the last one here is multiplying radicals, and we can do that because we know that you can multiply stuff that is square root times square root, like say a times b, and you can multiply those together, a times b, and then simplify it if you can, right? Like for instance, I know that this is the square root of 12 times 5, which is the square root of 60. But the problem is when I look at that sheet, and again, you're going to have to do this, so you might as well have this out all the time. I look and say, oh, 4 goes into 60. Does anything else? Does 9? No. Does 16? No. Does 25? No, and so on. Is too big, right? But this is 4 times 15, okay, which is square root of 4 times square root of 15, which is 2 square roots of 15. And that's how we do this. We put them together, and then we split them up if we need to. Okay? Alright. So this is a times negative square root of 3. So again, what I got is a negative here, because 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And then what's underneath, I can multiply what's underneath. 8 times 3 is 24. Alright, cool. Now we got to look and see, can we break this down? And this is 4 times 6. So yes, we can. So here's how you do it. You break it down like this. Then you can break it down even further like that. And this all means times. So this is negative 3 times 2 times the square root of 6, which is negative 6 square roots of 6, because I times these together here to get that. Okay? Let's take a look at C here as well. Again, you times what's outside by what's outside, so I get negative 10 from those two. And then what's inside with what's inside. So I get square root of 6 times 10, which is 60. x1 times x2, if you remember, x1 times x2 is x3, because you would add those exponents together. And I get x3 underneath here. And this is going to get a little crazy because we can split those up. So this is negative 10 times, we already did 60. Excuse me. Like so. But the x's, well, this is something that I would have showed you if you were here for. But we can still do it. We can split. Now 2 doesn't divide into 3, right? So we got to break this into something that the 2 will go into, which is 2, and then whatever's left. Kind of like what we're doing with the numbers. So this is square root of x squared and square root of x to the first. And let's just go through and figure out the ones that we can. We can do negative 10. We can do the square root of 4. That's 2. Can't do that. We can do that because when there's square root of the evens, we just divide 2 by 2 and we get 1. And then what's left just goes back under the sign, 15 and x. So I'm going to simplify here. That gives me negative 20x times the square root of 15x. And that is the answer. And that's a little more difficult than you'd probably like, but we're going to do a couple more. Okay? Maybe pause it and try one. We'll do 2 together. Pause it, try number 1, come back and check how you're doing. Alright, so negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Square roots of 12 times 7, which is, what, 84? Yep, 84. Okay, and then I start thinking, how can I break this down? Negative 21. Right, I'm going to break 84 down into 4 and 21. Okay, and if I try and think of like 9 times 9 is 81, so that doesn't fit. 16 times 4 is 64 times 5 is 80, so that doesn't work. 25 is not going to fit. 36 times 2 is 72. Okay, so we're not going to get anything else to fit, so that is what we're going to break it down into, which is negative 21 times 2, because that's the square root of 4, times 21, and I get negative 42 square roots of 21. Okay, that is the answer. Okay, sorry, show you that here. Come to the next one, and again I multiply 1 times 8 because they're both on the outside. Square roots of 15 times 5 is 75. X to the, again, this is x to the 3 times x to the 4th. You add them together and get x to the 7th. Alright, 2 doesn't divide into that, so I'm going to have to divide it again. Okay, so again, what number that is as close to 2 as possible, or 7, excuse me, as possible, will 2 go into? Think about that. We'll break this down here. 8 times 75, hopefully you recognize it's just 3/4. Anything with 25 going into it is easy. And how are we going to split those x7s up though? Okay, so again, I want something that I can put 2 into and something I can't. And I can put 2 into 6. I could put it at 8 too, but that'd be too far. Right? And if I take 6 of them out, I got 1 left over. So that is what we're going to split that up into. Right? So up here, 3 became 2 and 1. Down here, 7 became 6 and 1. Guess what? x9 would be x8 and 1. You always have to add 1. Right? X to the 71st would be x to the 70th and x to the 1st. And we could take this and divide by 2 and get 35. So you'd have x35 square roots of x1. Here you'd have x4 square roots of x1. So here, this is going to be, well, let's take the things we can. 8 times 5 from that. Can't do this. I'm going to come back to it. This I can do, again, because I can divide that by 2 and get x3. And this one I can't do. It's just going to stay under the sign. Like so, because the 3 and the x stay under it. 8 times 5 is 40. x3 square roots of 3x. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I forgot to lower that down there, but here you go. Okay, so let me just check it out one more time. 75 is 25 times 3. Anything with an x you can split to the closest number to it and 1. Okay. 25 times 3 is 75, so that gave me 5. This I can divide by 2 to get x3, and the ones that are left go back under the sign, and then I just multiplied 8 times 5 to get 40. Okay. And this leads to the last part of this homework, which looks to be decently easier than what I even just gave you in the notes. But those are examples of how you will get through all these videos, you will do that part of the homework, and then you will turn that in on a separate sheet of paper sent to me in an email as I put on the assignment. If you have any questions, get at me. Have a good week.